Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector. Happy Tuesday to you all. It's a beautiful day. Supposed to be nicer when it comes to weather. And I got a request not that long ago for me to showcase some of the run and gun shooters that I have in my collection. I did a video, I think yesterday or the day before, showing some of the shoot 'em ups in my collection. And I used to do a lot of these videos earlier on in the channel. But I've actually kind of changed up some of my topics and I've been just talking about different things. But some of the viewers are interested in some of the games that I have in my collection. I don't have a very big collection. There are so many other YouTubers that have way more games than I do. My collection just happens to be very hyper focused on the games that I enjoy playing. And those are beat 'em ups, shoot 'em ups, run and gun shooters, action platformers, a small amount of RPGs, and just really those four categories are really what make up the bulk of my collection. Like even when I look at my collection in Game Eye, it's crazy how heavily lean towards those categories my game collection is. And that's just because those are the games that are fun to me. And to each his own. If you love turn-based RPGs and things like that, no knock to you on that, but these are just the games that I like. So, just in response to that viewer's request, I'm going to show you some of the run and gun shooters in my collection. And we will start off with some of the handhelds and PS1 stuff. So first up, we have Gunstar Superheroes for the Game Boy Advance. This is a very cool second edition into the Gunstar franchise. We all know about the original Gunstar Heroes, but this is just a great addition. Would love to see them come out with a Gunstar Heroes 2 eventually. That'd be amazing, but this is one that I have in the collection. Then I have Contra, the Advanced Contra Advanced Alien Wars. This is basically like Contra 3 or the Contra Alien Wars on the Super Nintendo, just in the Game Boy version. Still a really good game. Awesome to be able to play that handheld. Next up, we have Metal Slug Advance. I'm a huge Metal Slug fan. You can't be a fan of the run and gun shooters if you're not into Metal Slug. So this is one I definitely have on the collection. Next up, we have Metroid Zero Mission. To me, Metroid is a run and gun type game. I don't know how many people view it. Some people might view it as like a Metroidvania, which it is, but just by the nature of the running and gunning, I included Metroid here. And then also Metroid Fusion, also going to include that in this list as well. Next up, we have Metal Slug First Mission. Definitely qualifies as a run and gun shooter. One of the best handheld run and gun shooters of its era, for sure. I don't have a ton of like run and gun shooters on the PS1, but Silhouette Mirage would probably be the closest game that falls into this category because it is somewhat of a side-scrolling run and gun shooter. The mechanics on this game are very different and complicated. Won't dive into it now, but definitely check out Silhouette Mirage if you've never heard of it. An awesome working designs game. Metal Slug 2 or Metal Slug Second Mission. Awesome Metal Slug addition to the Neo Geo Pocket library. This one is actually really cool because in the first one, the sound effects are really limited, but in part 2, it plays more closely to like Metal Slug you would play on a console, because when you pick up the heavy machine gun, you hear him. He says heavy machine gun. So this one's better. Graphics are better. Gameplay is better. Definitely cool. Sega Saturn. We have Assault Suit Lanos 2. This is kind of like a side-scrolling mech run and gun shooter. I included some of the mech run and gun shooters in this collection, so definitely a good one there. Then we also have Wolf Fang, another mech side-scrolling shooter there as well. So this is another cool one. Let me see if I can get that in focus. Yep, so this is another cool one that you'll want to check out. Wolf Fang on the Sega Saturn. Then we have Gunvolt Striker Pack. I had this on the Nintendo Switch, so I left my 3DS version sealed. Think Mega Man, so another like run and gun shooter. Cool one there. Metal Slug. You're going to see a lot of Metal Slug in here because Metal Slug, these guys are like the godfather of run and gun shooters. So Metal Slug 7 on the DS. The DS had a bunch of really cool run and gun shooters on it if you didn't know that. But Metal Slug 7 is there. Then we also have Contra 4 on the DS, another great run and gun shooter there as well. The best, this is probably one of the top, I would say top 5 run and gun shooters in my collection, Commando Steel Disaster. If you've never heard of this game, check this out. This would be like if Gunstar Heroes and Metal Slug had a child. This is what it would look like. Commando Steel Disaster. Awesome game. Bangai-O. I mean, Bangai-O kind of borders like shoot 'em up and run and gun shooter the way it plays. It's kind of like an arena style shooter. It's a little different. And I think the DS version is even more different from the version on the Dreamcast, which I didn't include in this list. But Bangai-O is one I threw in there. And then also another run and gun shooter you may or may not have heard of, Alien Infestation on the DS. This is another pretty cool run and gun side-scrolling shooter. And these aren't all the side-scrolling shooters in my collection. These were just the ones that I could gather together in about 5 minutes to make this video. I'm going to do these together. So you have a couple of really cool Game Boy Advance run and gun shooters. I still have these copies sealed. This is CT Special Forces. This is kind of like a bootleg Metal Slug in a way. Not as exciting, not as funny, not as well. The characters aren't as well drawn in this one, but still pretty cool. So I have CT Special Forces and CT Special Forces 2, Back in the Trenches. Just two pretty cool side-scrolling run and gun shooters on the Game Boy Advance. People always kill me in the comments how I say Game Boy Advance. All right, so next up on the Switch, we got some Switch run and gun shooters. These aren't all of the ones that I have in my collection, but Mighty Goose, I've talked about this a ton. Think if Metal Slug, the main character Metal Slug, were to be a duck, that's what you'd be looking at. Awesome graphics in this one. If you've never heard of Mighty Goose, you got to check it out. This is a very dope game. Music is great in this one as well. Another mech side-scrolling shooter. You're going to see a lot of that. Gigantic Army. Another pretty cool one here. Definitely check that out. And I'll do an honorable mention, too, on the Switch. Bite the Bullet. If you've never heard of Bite the Bullet, I have it in my collection somewhere. Just couldn't pull it out. But Bite the Bullet is also a really cool side-scrolling run-and-gun shooter. Check that one out. We've got some Super Nintendo action here. Let's see. So we've got Cybernator. Cybernator is another mech side-scrolling run-and-gun shooter. Definitely check it out. Konami classic. And then, of course, since I included the other Metroids, how could I not include Super Metroid, the godfather of run-and-gun Metroidvania action platformers? I mean, you got to have this in your collection. If you don't have Metroid and you have Super Nintendo, go get this game. It's an awesome game. The Red Star on the PS2, a recent pickup. This is a classic. This is like a side-scrolling run-and-gun game, but it is like 3D. But I included this one because I don't have a ton on the PS2, and this one is just like top tier for me. The Red Star, if you've never heard of this, check it out. Alien Hominid, another this is like another run and gun kind of shooter. This is like a cartoon base, very unique, very different. This is one that I would definitely check out. Some PS4 stuff, They Always Run. You've heard me talk about this one. Three-Armed Assassin, run and gun shooter. I guess this is kind of more of a beat 'em up, but you guys can let me know in the comments. Gal Guardians, I've talked about this one a lot. You get to play as one of two characters. One is more hack and slash, the other is more shooter. So that's why I included this one in the mix here. And then you have the Terminator on the Sega CD, a classic side-scrolling shooter. This one also came out on the Sega Genesis, but I do have it on the Sega CD. Better music, better cutscenes and stuff like that. All right, and now we're down to our last pile. You know I love my mech shooters. If you can't tell by now, Ranger X falls into that list. Ranger X, another awesome side-scrolling shooter on the Sega Genesis. Definitely check this one out. The Godfather, Gunstar Heroes, one of the godfathers of the run-and-gun shooter genre, a classic, timeless run-and-gun shooter. They need to make a part 2 of this somewhere, some way, somehow. I didn't include these in the last one. I actually got to get this one out of here because Gleylancer, I should have put Gleylancer in the shoot 'em up video. But Rendering Ranger, this is a game that wasn't released in stateside, but Limited Run did put this out. This is like a unique combination of shoot 'em up, run and gun shooter, a bunch of different genres in one. Very unique game. Check this out. I don't know if they still have copies of this available, but I would definitely get this. I don't normally get these types of aftermarket reproduction type games, but this is one that I would get. Rendering Ranger is pretty cool. The OG, Metal Warriors on the Super Nintendo. I got it in this little aftermarket case here. But yeah, Metal Warriors is a classic. One of the most expensive games in my collection, probably in the top 10 of expensive games in my collection, but definitely worth it. The detail and effort that they put into this game, everything about this game, from the sound effects, the art style, even the opening scenes in this game, just way ahead of its time. This game feels like a game that should have been released either on the Sega Saturn or maybe on the Sega CD. Just I'm shocked that this came out on the Super Nintendo with just the type of game this is. A very good game. Check it out. Some more Sega goodness. We've got Alien Storm run and gun shooter. You might know this one. This is an arcade run and gun shooter on the Sega Genesis. Another classic. I almost sold this game like 5 times, but I'm glad I kept it in my collection. I went back and forth on it. Same thing with Mercs. This is more like a top-down run and gun shooter. This I also almost sold like 5 times, but kept it in the collection as well. Glad I didn't sell this one either. Who doesn't love a good Wesley Snipes movie? Stallone and Snipes and Demolition Man. If you never saw this movie, this Saturday, get some popcorn. It's Memorial Day weekend. Perfect time for a movie like this. This is a perfect beginning of summer movie. Anyway, I might just watch this one. But Demolition Man is a classic, and the game is even more classic. Look at those amazing sprites and colors. This is a sick run and gun side-scrolling shooter. Check this one out. I think they have this one on the Sega CD, but I don't think you need it on the CD. Sega Genesis does this one justice. And then last but not least, RoboCop versus Terminator, another great side-scrolling action platforming run and gun game here in the collection. And these are not all of them, right? These are just the ones that I could gather. I've got a bunch more. I could probably do a part 2 of this video if I have more time, but it's early morning and I did just want to connect with the Y2K crew and just show you some games that you may or may not have heard of. If you don't know about some of these, check them out. These games range in price. Some of them are as cheap as maybe 30 bucks. Some of them go all the way up to 400 bucks. But I'll let you decide which ones you want to add. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if you have any other recommendations. It's the Y2K Collector, and I'll be back with you this afternoon. Take it easy.